Well, hello there, my dear friends. It's not every day I get the chance to share the wisdom that life has generously offered me. But today, I want to tell you something important, something that, with age, I have come to realize health in our later years isn't a matter of luck or genes. It's about making the right choices along the way. You see, I've lived through 80 years, and though I've faced my share of challenges, I've learned one undeniable truth. Aging doesn't have to mean slowing down. In fact, I believe with all my heart that aging can be a beautiful, fulfilling part of life, as long as we take care of ourselves. When I was younger, like many of you, I didn't think too much about getting older. I was busy with work, family, and all the hustle and bustle of life. But once I crossed that milestone into my 60s, something changed. I started to feel the effects of time. The little aches and pains were harder to ignore. I found that I didn't have the same energy I used to, and things that once seemed so easy were now a bit of a challenge. That's when it hit me. If I didn't change my habits, I'd only feel worse. I won't lie to you, making those changes wasn't easy. We all get comfortable with our routines, and stepping out of that comfort zone can be difficult. But, my friends, I learned that if you don't actively work on maintaining your health, time will slip away from you. So, I decided to make a conscious effort. I began reading more about how to age well, and slowly, I started adopting a few simple but powerful habits. I won't claim to have it all figured out, but I can tell you that I'm 80 years old, and I feel pretty good for my age. In fact, I feel healthier now than I did in my 60s, and that's something I want for all of you too. You see, the key to healthy aging is not a mystery. It's about consistent small habits that build over time. It's about being mindful of what we do with our bodies and minds, taking care of ourselves in ways we sometimes forget. Today, I want to share with you the 5 golden habits that I believe have helped me, and I'm sure they can help you, live a healthier, happier life as we age. These habits aren't about extreme change. They're about finding balance, making wise choices, and respecting our bodies and minds. So, sit back, relax, and let me take you through these 5 habits that have been essential in my own journey of aging. I remember, back when I was in my 60s, I used to think, well, I've worked hard all my life, now it's time to take it easy. I thought that as I got older, I could relax more, take longer naps, and enjoy the fruits of all my hard work. After all, doesn't retirement mean you're supposed to slow down? But as I crossed into my 70s, I quickly realized that I had made a big mistake. My body wasn't as spry as it used to be. The aches and stiffness that I had once brushed off as normal started to become more constant. It became clear to me that the secret to staying healthy in old age wasn't about resting all the time, it was about staying active. At first, I was a little resistant. After all, who wants to get out of a cozy chair when you've earned the right to relax? But I soon realized that every time I sat still for too long, my body felt weaker. I wasn't used to the feeling of tight muscles, sore joints, or shortness of breath. That's when I started doing something simple, walking. I'll never forget the first time I decided to take a walk around the block. My knees weren't happy about it, and my breath came in short gasps. But I pushed through. And you know what? By the time I finished that walk, I felt a little bit better. The next day, I did it again. A little longer, a little easier. Slowly my body began to adjust. Walking became my ritual. It wasn't about hitting a target or proving something to anyone. It was about keeping my body in motion. I started walking for 30 minutes each day. First, I'd take short walks around the neighborhood, and then I worked my way up to longer strolls in the park. After a while, I noticed something amazing. I wasn't just physically stronger, I was mentally sharper too. I began looking forward to my walks as time to reflect, think, or simply enjoy the fresh air. It wasn't a chore anymore, it became a joy. I also discovered that staying active didn't have to be complicated. It didn't mean lifting weights at the gym or running marathons. It could be as simple as stretching in the morning, walking around the garden, or even doing a few gentle yoga poses in the evening. The key was consistency. You don't have to push yourself to the limit, but you do need to keep moving, even if it's just for a little while each day. As I've gotten older, I've seen that the more I keep my body moving, the less stiff I feel, the more energy I have, and the better my heart and joints feel. So, my dear friends, let me tell you, don't wait. The secret to a healthy, active life is motion. Find something you enjoy, something that feels right for your body, and stick with it. Whether it's a walk, a swim, or simply moving around your home, don't let your body become sedentary. The more you move, the more life you add to your years. Now, when I was younger, I didn't think much about food. If I was hungry, I ate whatever I could get my hands on. After a long day of work, I'd often grab a quick snack or indulge in a big hearty meal, maybe even wash it down with a little too much dessert. But as the years went by, I began to notice something. My body didn't quite handle food the same way anymore. Those meals that once made me feel full and satisfied started to leave me feeling sluggish, bloated, and tired. That's when I realized I needed to rethink how I approached food if I wanted to stay healthy as I got older. It wasn't an overnight change, mind you. Like many people, I was used to certain foods, and breaking old habits wasn't easy. But after a few visits to the doctor and some uncomfortable health issues, I decided it was time to take my health more seriously. That's when I started focusing on eating smarter, not just more. I began to pay attention to how different foods made me feel after I ate them. And that's when I began making small changes. I started by cutting back on the heavy processed foods and refined sugars that were contributing to my fatigue and joint pain. I swapped out fried foods for grilled options, and instead of grabbing a sugary snack, I reached for fresh fruit or a handful of nuts. One of the best decisions I made was to focus on eating smaller meals more often throughout the day. It turns out that as we get older, our metabolism slows down, and heavy meals can take a toll on the digestive system. By eating smaller portions more frequently, I found that I had more sustained energy throughout the day. I didn't feel weighed down by a large meal, and I found that my digestion improved. Now, my plate is always full of vibrant, colorful foods. Lots of leafy greens, fresh vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins. I make sure to get a variety of nutrients in every meal, as it's not just about filling up, but about fueling my body with what it needs. I also became more mindful of my water intake. I'll admit, I wasn't always good at drinking enough water, but once I started paying attention, I realized how important it is for maintaining energy levels and supporting all of our bodily functions. I made it a habit to carry a water bottle around with me, and now I make sure I drink at least 8 glasses a day. One thing I've learned over the years is that healthy eating isn't about depriving yourself of the things you love. It's about balance. I still enjoy the occasional treat, but I've found a way to enjoy food in a way that nourishes my body. When I look at my plate now, I see not just food, but fuel. Fuel for my body, mind, and spirit. And let me tell you, it's made all the difference. The more I focus on what I eat, the better I feel. More energized, more alert, and more in tune with my health. As I grew older, I started to notice something else. Something that surprised me more than I expected. It wasn't just my body that needed attention, it was my mind too. At first, I didn't give much thought to mental exercise. I was still reading newspapers, watching my favorite shows, and having conversations, so I assumed everything was fine. But as I reached my late 70s, I began to feel a bit foggy. I couldn't remember names as easily, and I found myself losing track of conversations. It wasn't alarming at first, but it was a sign that I needed to pay attention to my mental health as much as I did to my physical health. So, I decided to take action. I didn't want to be the person who gets stuck in their ways, forgetting things, or feeling mentally sluggish. I started reading more books, not just the ones I enjoyed, but a variety of genres: history, mystery, self-improvement. I also took up puzzles, crossword puzzles to be specific, because I heard they could help keep your mind sharp. At first, I had to look up answers more often than I'd like to admit, but with time, it became easier. I noticed something wonderful. Every time I solved a puzzle or read a challenging chapter, I felt a little more alert, a little more engaged with the world around me. But I didn't stop there. I also decided to learn something new. And trust me, that's where the fun started. I had always wanted to learn how to use a computer, so I enrolled in a class at my local community center. At first, it felt like a foreign language to me. The buttons, the screens, the internet, it was all so overwhelming. But I stuck with it. And little by little, I began to feel more comfortable. I started emailing my children, browsing the internet, and even using social media to connect with old friends. It wasn't just about learning new technology, it was about challenging my brain to keep up with something unfamiliar. One thing I learned is that mental exercise doesn't always have to come from formal activities like reading or puzzles. It can also come from engaging with others. I made it a habit to stay connected with my friends and family, sharing stories, discussing current events, or even reminiscing about the past. These conversations weren't just enjoyable, they were exercises for my brain. The more I engaged in meaningful discussions, the sharper I felt. You see, the brain is just like a muscle. It needs to be used regularly to stay strong. If you don't challenge it, it can start to weaken. But if you keep feeding it new experiences and information, it stays alert and active. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's never too late to start. Whether it's reading a new book, learning a new skill, or simply engaging in thoughtful conversations, your mind will thank you for it. Don't let it grow idle, my friends. Keep it sharp, and it'll serve you well into your later years. As I've gotten older, I've come to understand something deeply important about life. It's not just the body and the mind that need care, it's the heart too. And by heart, I mean the relationships we nurture throughout our lives. I know a lot of people, especially as they get older, tend to withdraw. They feel like they've lived their life, and now it's time to be alone. Maybe they've lost their spouse, or their children are busy with their own lives, and they start to think, what's the point of reaching out anymore? But I'll tell you, nothing could be further from the truth. There was a time, about a decade ago, when I went through a phase of feeling lonely. My children were growing up, moving away, and starting their own families, and I found myself spending more and more time by myself. I started to feel like an outsider in my own world. But one day, while sitting by the window on a quiet afternoon, I thought, this isn't the way I want to spend my golden years. I realized that being alone wasn't the same as being lonely. I needed to do something about it. So I started small. I reached out to old friends I hadn't spoken to in years. I picked up the phone and called them, just to check in. Some of them were thrilled to hear from me, and it rekindled our friendship in ways I didn't expect. We began meeting for coffee, chatting about the past, reminiscing, and even laughing about things we hadn't thought about in decades. I made it a point to stay involved with my community, whether it was joining the local senior center for activities or volunteering to help with neighborhood events. It wasn't just about staying busy, it was about staying connected. Every interaction, whether it was a phone call, a letter, or a simple conversation with a neighbor, filled me with joy. The more I connected with others, the more I realized how important these bonds are for our well-being. One thing I noticed was that the more I put myself out there, the more others did too. My family began visiting me more often, and we started having weekly dinners. I even joined a book club, which allowed me to meet new people and form new friendships. You see, relationships aren't just about what others bring to the table, it's also about what you give. I realized that by showing up, by being present for others, I was making my own life richer. The beauty of these relationships is that they remind us we are never alone. In fact, the older we get, the more important it is to surround ourselves with people who care. They help us stay engaged with life, remind us of the things that matter, and offer a support system we can lean on. So, my friends, don't wait for someone else to reach out to you. Take the first step. Reconnect with old friends, engage with your family, and build new relationships. These connections will not only make you feel loved, they'll help you live a longer, more fulfilling life. As we age, something profound happens. We start to realize that rest is just as important as activity. When I was younger, I could work long hours, stay up late, and still get up early the next day feeling fresh. But now, in my 80s, I've learned that sleep isn't just a luxury, it's essential. I've spent years trying to get the most out of my waking hours, but in recent years, I've come to understand that the secret to being truly healthy, physically and mentally, is in how well we rest. I used to think that taking naps was a sign of laziness. I didn't want to admit that I needed them, but over time, I noticed that I felt more sluggish, less focused, and even a little irritable if I didn't get enough sleep or rest. At first, I thought I was just getting old. Maybe it was just part of the aging process. But then I realized that the body, no matter how old, needs time to recharge. That's when I started making rest a priority. I began by adjusting my sleep schedule, aiming for a full 7 to 8 hours each night. I realized that without enough sleep, my muscles didn't recover as quickly, my mind wasn't as sharp, and my emotions were all over the place. But sleep wasn't the only part of the puzzle. I also started paying attention to how I rested during the day. I wasn't just talking about sleep at night, but taking moments to step back and breathe. I found that simply sitting quietly for 10 to 15 minutes in the afternoon, even with my eyes closed, helped clear my mind and refresh my energy. I'd sit on the porch, close my eyes, and listen to the wind rustling through the trees or the sound of birds chirping. It became my little ritual, a time to detach from the hustle of everyday life, even if just for a few minutes. I also started practicing mindfulness and deep breathing exercises. These practices helped me calm my mind and relieve stress. Over time, I noticed that the more I allowed myself to rest, not just sleep, but quiet, restorative moments, the better I felt. I became less anxious, more focused, and overall more present in my daily life. The difference was noticeable. Resting allowed me to be more productive, more energized, and in a better mood overall. One important thing I've learned is that, as we get older, our bodies aren't as forgiving when we don't rest. Without proper rest, we become more prone to illness, aches, and even mental fatigue. So, I've made it a habit to listen to my body when it says, it's time to rest. Whether it's getting a good night's sleep, taking an afternoon nap, or simply allowing myself a moment of stillness, rest has become a cornerstone of my healthy aging. So, my dear friends, don't overlook the power of rest. Sleep is not a luxury, and time spent resting is not wasted. It's the fuel that allows us to live our best lives, feeling strong, clear-headed, and ready to face whatever comes our way. Rest and recharge, and you'll be amazed at how much better you feel. Now, I've shared with you the 5 golden habits that have been essential in my own journey of healthy aging. Staying active, eating well, keeping the mind sharp, nurturing relationships, and of course, getting the rest we deserve. I've lived through my share of ups and downs, and I can tell you, it's never too late to start taking better care of yourself. These habits aren't difficult, but they are powerful, and with consistency, they can make all the difference in how we feel as we age. I may be 80 now, but these habits help me feel younger and more vibrant than I ever thought possible. But I understand, sometimes it's not always easy to figure out what to do or where to start. That's why I want to invite you to keep coming back to this channel, Elderly Hacks, where we're all about making aging easier, healthier, and more enjoyable. There's a lot of wisdom in these later years, but it's also about learning new things, discovering new ways to improve our lives, and sharing that knowledge with others. That's what this channel is all about, helping you find practical tips, simple hacks, and inspiring ideas that can make your days brighter and healthier. If you've enjoyed the tips I've shared today, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and become part of this wonderful community. Every week, we'll be sharing more videos with helpful advice on staying fit, maintaining mental sharpness, boosting energy, and so much more. We'll explore everything from healthy recipes to exercises that suit our bodies as we age, to fun activities that'll keep our minds engaged. There's a wealth of information out there, and we want to bring it straight to you so you don't have to search for it. The truth is, there's no need to face the challenges of aging alone. We're all in this together, and we can learn so much from each other. That's why I encourage you to not only subscribe, but also to share your own experiences, questions, and tips in the comments below. Let's create a space where we can support and inspire one another. As you continue on this journey of aging, remember, it's not about how many years you have, but how you live them. And with the right habits, the right mindset, and a little help from Elderly Hacks, you'll not only age gracefully, you'll thrive. So don't forget to subscribe and be sure to check out our other videos. We'll be here, sharing more golden tips and encouraging each other to live our best lives. Thanks for watching.